This episode of the Free Lunch Podcast is brought to you by the Selma Project, an initiative created to infuse hope and inspiration into the youth of Selma, Alabama through culture, art, and entertainment. It is a call on natives and friends of the Selma movement to use their gifts, talents, and resources to pave a road of success for future generations. And brought to you by faithful listeners everywhere. And now to the show. One time, two time, three. See me shine, put some light on their mind, illuminate the dark, give them sight if they blind, and see me shine for the ones that they said will never make it. Finally got
Welcome to the Free Lunch Podcast, home of the New South Movement. This is your boy Tight, and I got BGeezy with me. BGeezy, you are now listening to the greatest show. What's happening?
Already, BG27 kid, you know what it is. Free Lunch Podcast. Let's do this. What's going on, boy?
Ain't not much. How was your day, sir?
Man, everything blessed, boy. Just trying to navigate, man. Been going back and forth all day with the 805D crew on the group message. We've been talking about relationships.
What is the 805 crew?
805D, Timmy G, Love, CB, Drew Mo, the old crew. What up, 805D boy?
C. Frank Campbell on is C. Frank Campbell on that?
Yeah, C. Frank to make his appearances. Yeah, we all on there hashing it out, trying to figure out what's going on with these women.
Well, share to the audience.
Well, I mean, it ain't nothing. I mean, moral of the story is you got a group of guys, a collection of married guys that are married, single, dating, all these things. And so we just sharing our experiences as it relates to us dealing with these women out here. And the ones that's married trying to coach the young bucks on what you need to do and how you need to listen.
Who coaching?
I don't be vibing on most of it.
Coach?
I say coach. He keep everybody straight. He say you got to listen and be patient. I don't be trying to hear that, man. But it's just a good thing to have all those different perspectives and to just have that collective of people that'll keep you in check and hold you accountable for what's going on. So we've been going through it for the last couple of days. They trying to get me straight, man. They having a hard time, though.
The coach ain't got the answer.
You know my motto.
What is your motto?
Coach got the answer.
What is your motto?
Nah, I ain't gonna do that. My mama listen to this show. But y'all know what it is.
The 805 coach. The 805 boys ain't got the answer, BG.
I don't know, man. You got guys that's got some pretty productive and fruitful marriages and families going on there, so they might actually have the answer.
I mean,
it's just a matter of, are the other ones of us willing to hear what the answer is? They say it's a woman's world. We just live in it.
What's C. Frank Campbell add to the conversation?
You got to ask him. We'll give him an opportunity to come on the show. You can ask him directly because I ain't going to speak for him.
Okay. Well, I will definitely reach out outside of this podcast to really hear and to really get a sense of what y'all was talking about.
Yeah,
right
man.
Now you talking in code,
so,
and you not being authentic. I say right now you talking in code, and the audience.
Nah, I'm not being no. I don't want to be no chatty patty. I just want the audience to know that we guys do talk too, and ladies, we talk about y'all often.
Well, I think they.
So watch your back.
I
don't think they really realize what we really do talk about them. And try to figure out what it is that make them tick. Now, whether or not we get close to what's really going on and understanding them, that's to be debated. But we definitely try.
Well, men and women are different. That's the only thing that we have in common and we can agree on is that we are different.
I think that's what we come up with. I think that's where we end every conversation with. We just different, man.
We just different. I
sure.
got plenty of stories I can tell, and I got plenty of examples that I can give, recent examples. And I just come to the resolution and the conclusion that we just different. I can say right, they say left. So this not even.
And I think that reigns
the
true.
reason for today's show, or the topic or the conversation for today, but I do find it interesting and entertaining, though, sir. Because I can only imagine. I can only imagine what y'all was talking about.
Yeah, it get real entertaining, no doubt, no doubt. But anyway,
see, Frank,
what's going on?
I will be calling you after this show. Get ready, even though this is pre-recorded. When you hear, you'll know exactly what day we recorded this show, because I'm interested now, and I'm excited to hear what y'all been talking about. And even with today's show, this kind of you kind of through this I guess the protagonist of the show, you kind of threw this over to me, and I thought it would be a good follow-up to a previous podcast we did when we talked about the undefeated.com, and we talked about Jason Whitlock, and essentially to kind of summarize and paraphrase for that show, we really talked about how this new website that Mr. Whitlock and his team and project are going to put together as part of one of the ESPN platforms, and use that mothership to tell a story that a lot of folks don't or feel is not being told, but really taking that website and comparing it to essentially what's the new mass media form for today's culture, for our culture, and that being media takeout, gossip, world star, hip hop, etc. So I kind of want to take that, use that as our foundation. For those of you that did hear that show, great. This would be a great transition and a follow-up to that show. For those of you that have not heard that show, pause the podcast here so you can actually go back and listen to that show to have a good foundation as to exactly what I was just referring to. But before we even get into that, BG, I think I got something for today.
Oh, you got one? This a Vine day?
It is. It may not be. Okay. It may not be the type of Vine you were considering, but I got something.
Okay, well, I'll never have no problem with that. Make it good for the people. Do it for the Vine.
I'm gonna do it. But for those of you that listen to the show, and those of you that would like to figure out different ways and segments that you can sponsor the show, we've had a few sponsors to actually participate and sponsor this portion of the show. So if you're ever interested in any other segment, where it's our opening, where we kind of just talk about some random topics, hot topics, or whatever's going on in our life, you can sponsor that portion. If you want to sponsor this portion of when I actually try to sing, rap, do poetry, what have you, to kind of introduce the main topic of the show, you can definitely sponsor this portion of the show. Help us to continue to provide this podcast to you. But with that being said, the one for the day, it was one of them. It was actually, it was like the song was in my head and I couldn't remember the actual lyrics, or I had the tune in my head, and eventually I was able to kind of Google the lyrics, and I'm kind of want to recite the lyrics as this particular artist did when I saw it on YouTube. So here I go. What we talking about? Real shit, or we talking about rhymes? You talking about millions, or you talking about mine? What we talking about? Cause I ain't got time for what people be talking about all the time. What we talking about, fiction, or we talking about fact? You talking about fiction. Hold up, pardon my back. I'm talking about life, and all I hear is, oh yeah, he keeps talking about crack. I ain't talking about profit. I ain't talking about pain. I'm talking about dope. I'm talking about despair. I'm talking about shame. I ain't talking about no gossip. I ain't talking about no game. I ain't talking about no Jimmy. I ain't talking about no Dame. I'm talking about real shit, them people playing. What is you talking about? I don't know what y'all saying. People ain't talking about, hold, take it back. I'm doing better than before. Why would I do that? I ain't got nothing cool about carrying the strap. about warring your moms and burying your best cat, talking about revenge while carrying this casket, all teary-eyed about to take it to the mattress. I'm talking about music. I ain't talking about rap. You talking about who's hot. I ain't talking about that. The conversation has changed. Let's yap about that. I don't run rap no more. I run the map. That's Jay-Z. What you talking about? And I thought it was appropriate for today's show because when we kind of were throwing topics back and forth on the text message, one of the things I kind of wanted to talk about was the YouTube video you sent me, and I'll kind of let you kind of lay the foundation. But essentially, after recording the previous podcast, you sent a YouTube video, and I ended up watching the interview, and I kind of wanted you to share what the interview was and the interviewee that was getting interviewed. But even on top of that, when you sent that interview, I kind of wanted to understand what were your thoughts around sending it.
It was a Breakfast Club interview featuring this young, I guess you would say, up-and-coming author, M.K. Asante. And the interesting thing about it, though, and I don't know if you've ever picked up on this, his best-selling book is entitled Buck, B-U-C-K. And it's a very noticeable book. It's just a white book with large black letters on it. And that book, as long as they've been doing like the video Breakfast Club interviews, is always sitting in the back, like right behind Charlemagne. And, you know, and a while back, I actually looked it up on Amazon to see what it was and what the book was about and all that. But I never thought about investigating the author. And so I just clicked on the video, saw the name, and I just was trying to see what the young brother was talking about. And then when he got into the interview and they was like, you know, he's the author of the book, and I was like, wow. And so this guy is a 32-year-old college professor since he was 22 years of age. And now he's like 32.
Yep, 32,
now.
Born November 3rd, 1982, I believe, but he's definitely 32.
Yeah, and so he's been faculty at Morgan State University. He's tenured, and he's a professor. And so he was on there just talking about his book and this upcoming movie that he's also doing. And you just, to hear the enthusiasm, but more importantly, to hear somebody talking positivity coming from the community in the form of a young 30-something black male, which we know is something that you don't see a lot in the entertainment world. But to hear this, you know, young guy speak and him being as accomplished as he was, and then him talking about his projects, and his projects basically being an offering to the community. He's using his talents and his gifts to inspire others, which is a lot of what we talk about on the podcast and a lot of what we see a lot of our peers doing. And so it just really struck me to see that this guy's work is being noticed on the same scale as some of the most known rappers, musicians, actors, and actresses. So for me, it was, I guess, somewhat validation to say you just stay true to your purpose. You stay true to those things that drive you, and somebody somewhere will notice it and have an appreciation for it. And you don't never know where that's going to come from. Even in this world that seems to be filled with a lot of people getting excited about bizarre stuff. Like our society seems to be pushed by as the crazier, the better. The more weird, the more entertaining, and the more that people like that kind of stuff. So
I noticed because I researched him, not deep research, but I did just want to get a sense since he's so close, and he teaches that he's so close to the DC Free Lunch Podcast studio. I want to make certain that I figure out how and if we can get him on the show because, again, 32, was tenured at, I guess he was the youngest professor at, 23, I think, and then got tenured at 26 or 27 or somewhere along those lines. I have to go back and get the exact numbers. But that's essentially, when you sent it, my adrenaline was still kind of high and running from the previous podcast that we had did around the Undefeated. So I looked at the podcast, and I'm happy we're having this conversation because your viewpoint on it, which is an excellent perspective, mine was actually quite different. And before we even get into the quite different, let me ask you a question. Have you read Buck yet?
No, I haven't. It's a bestseller. So if that's validation enough for the quality of it, it seems like it's worth reading. So it's on my list of books to get to and see what it's about.
And he won an award, I guess, so some of his accolades that I saw, he won an award at the film festival. Because he's essentially created a film based off that book. I think it's a story around his personal life story and his journey. I saw a quote by Maya Angelou about the book. I saw he was nominated awards, some type of BET awards or NAACP awards. Point being is that he's very accomplished at his age. And you have to respect that and admire that. The challenge that I had, more or less, I mean, some other things, I like what he did where he created a soundtrack for the book. That's very innovative. That's very thinking outside of the box. And that's essentially creating seeing an opportunity and creating an entirely new lane. Because I don't recall how many books that I've seen and read that have had a soundtrack to accompany them. So I thought that too was just amazing. The reason why I kind of was thrown from the actual YouTube video was because of the position of the interviewees and the interviewer, the interviewers and the interviewee. The problem that I had was around how the perception that is given off by DJ Envy and Charlemagne interviewing this professor, because I think, and the professor being so young and so into the hip-hop culture and really not distinguishing, in my opinion, in that interview, distinguishing himself from, even though he's a part of the culture, there were times where he would break out in rhyme, which is that's who he is, and I get it, because he's a very renaissance person. But do you think that interview could confuse a young person watching it or hearing on the radio?
I don't. Being that you come from the culture and you've grown up in Philadelphia and you've seen some of these things, like you have a strong connecting point to a lot of young people coming up in these cities and in these areas. And so I'm going to show you that you can have all these different sides. You can be a rapper and you can be lyrical, but at the same time, you can be a student of filmmaking and screenwriting, and you can do all these things and then come and do an interview and then be eloquent in your speech and speak clearly. So I think it's an approach that everyone can see themselves in. And in my opinion, that helps connect the audience to really what it is, to your core, and really what you have going on, which is step outside of this box and this cage that society puts you in and be yourself. But whatever it is that you decide to do, be the best at it, and don't be afraid to challenge yourself and try new things.
So maybe, and that's the reason why I want to have this conversation. Essentially, you have a professor, MK Asante, on the Breakfast Club, getting exposure, which is good. But I wonder if the perception that the young people hear is that, man, the person that's actually doing the interviewing, so DJ Envy and Charlemagne, that's the job or the role I want. And not so much understanding and not so much missing the message of what that particular professor may have been saying or trying to say, because it could get lost, in my opinion, in the presentation. And so that's the reason why I think we have numerous conversations around exposing the young people to other professions and other careers, but when they are on a show similar to the Breakfast Club and are being interviewed by some entertainers versus what Jason Whitlock and them are trying to do with the Undefeated and be like journalists and ask the journalistic questions, do you think that can get lost? Like his whole, what he's trying to tell and do? Am I being clear with what I'm saying?
I mean, yeah, you being clear, because it's like you're bringing a certain degree of academia or whatnot into a realm of just pure entertainment. He's sitting in the same seat that maybe hours before Rich Homie Quan was sitting in or something like that. And so it's just kind of a different realm. But I think that's what makes this story unique, is that this guy can dwell in these worlds, and just by him being on there, he's an academic that's in there and that able to talk. And that interview was very similar to the interviews that they have with just rappers and singers and people like that. So I think for him, the biggest thing was him getting on that platform, and it's like, oh wow, that's the guy that wrote that book that's always back there. Oh, he's a young black guy. Oh, he gets on. And he's really talking about something. He's trying to uplift the community. Now people are really intrigued by who he is. So now they're going to go and check out his brand. If nothing else, from a marketing standpoint, it was perfect. It worked out well for him.
Okay, answer this question then, because I think you're correct when referring to individuals like yourself and I that are able to read between the lines and see the benefits that it brings all parties involved. But let's talk about the demographic of listeners that listen to the Breakfast Club. How would you describe that demographic?
15 on up to maybe even 40 something. It of course depends on who they're interviewing on that particular day, because they interview a wide range of people. They interview old artists, current artists, people that are on TV and stuff like that. So they've got a pretty wide demographic, if I was to guess. But I would say the heart and soul of it is probably that 18 to 25.
Okay, and out of that 18 to 25, if we were even to elaborate on that demographic, where would they fall, you would think, in as far as the reality TV shows and the websites that we talked about on the Jason Whitlock perspective? What do you think their main form of media intake is?
It's in the entertainment world. So it's R&B, hip hop. Is social media heavy, reality TV, is all those things that make up the majority of what pop culture is right now. So they're engaged in all of those forms. They're probably not watching a lot of just headline news and things that probably would be considered more cultured, for lack of a better word. But I think they're still seeking information, and stuff like this, I do feel like probably got some of those people's attention as it relates to being familiar with MK Asante in a way that they otherwise would not have been. Stuff has to be dope. It has to be engaging. It has to be fast and quick for this generation.
I pulled it up. They 25 to 54 years old is essentially the Breakfast Club's audience. About between
25 to 54?
Yep.
Okay. 25 to 54.
So that's where they got the biggest lead when it comes to the ranking. But I said all of that because essentially what I was trying to do was set up the point that I wanted to make. Does that audience, and no disrespect, but does that audience, given what we're trying to do and given what the challenge that Jason Whitlock is going to take on, does that audience really have the mental capacity when it relates to consciousness to decipher what MK Asante is doing versus getting caught up in the entertainment aspect. That's essentially the point I want to get to.
Well, of course, I don't have the answer, but what I do know is that we, as a global society, are being programmed to heavily follow all things entertainment. So you put it on the entertainment blog, entertainment radio, it's gonna go. So entertainment right now is everything: music, radio, film, television, all those things. That's the go button. Now the mental capacity, that could be debated, but I do know that if you've got a product or something that you want to get out there, you need to be able to associate it with music. You need to have visuals going along with it. You need to have all those things, because that's what people are just programmed to be attracted to. And I think for us, like as artists and things like that, you have to take the consumer into mind to see, like, where are they? Where is their wavelength? And try to find that blend of your message and their wavelength, and putting your message on their wavelength so that they get it. And I personally think that exemplifies what that is. Let me put it on the wavelength of the community and where people are, and fish them out that way. So
but I bring all that up because I think what he has to say. And again, I'm going to do my best. He'll be in D.C. 6/16 at a commencement that I'm going to see if I can find out where it is and see if I can kind of book some time or shoot him an email. And hopefully we can make that happen, because I do want to introduce him to our audience. So no disrespect to MK Asante, because I'm going to purchase the book, and I do plan on reading the book, and I would like to have him on the show. My concern is that we lose the message in what he's saying and what he's accomplished because of the entertainment portion that's presented. And so that's the reason why I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that, because essentially, for those of you that are familiar with the 7 spheres of influence, essentially those 7 areas of influence that was coined really kind of define and really kind of talk about how we are shaped as individuals. With family being at the top of that pyramid, and then working our way around family, government, education, business, tech, innovation, science, religion, and then arts, entertainment, and media. So the point is that those 7 areas, and I guess the one we were focusing on, and the one I wanted to identify, and you talk about this all the time, is the influence that the media and the entertainment industry has on our lives. And so I get very cautious of what I'm watching and what I'm listening to, because at times I feel like, what role is it playing and influencing my overall perception of reality?
It's definitely overtaking all of those other spheres of influence, because it's with us all day, every day, in some form or fashion. If you're a social media head, it's with you every minute of every hour. It's right there. You wake up to it, you go to sleep with it, you watch TV, you're on the internet. So like, we get more of that stuff than we do in a lot of cases home, church, government, and politics, for sure. We don't know what's going on and have low involvement in that. So it's like overtaking all of those other areas of influence.
And you actually just raised a very good point, because I didn't even think about that. But when you think about these other aspects of the 7 influence, and you was to actually, in some form of fashion, try to put some type of I forget, a weighted or some weight on it, or I forget the right mathematical term.
Like a quantitative analysis where you put numbers to it and weigh it out. a pie chart, when you break that thing down into the parts of the pie, man, and the heavy part of the pie gonna be arts, entertainment, and media.
That would be interesting
Major.
to see that. You think that would outshine family and religion and government and education?
I mean, I just look at my own self and say that, you know, where you spend your time at. You spend most of your time sucking up this mass media, this information, than you do with your family and at church.
And it has, and
you know,
it's almost almost replacing education.
It is. The amount of time you spend at church, you did that multiple times on Facebook or Instagram or something like that. And hence why that everything seems to be being flipped upside down is because the media and entertainment is so important, and it's so significant in day-to-day life that it's basically telling people what to do.
We talked about Jason Whitlock and the challenge that he's gonna have with his website. Who's gonna challenge the Breakfast Club and Charlemagne and those type of shows? Like, what is their competition? And I'm not saying from someone that's from the same type of medium. So they're basically, I'm not talking about Hot 97 or the Ricky Smiley Morning Show. I'm talking about what medium of entertainment can compete with the likes of a Breakfast Club, assuming or me positioning the Breakfast Club as an entertainment outlet, no different than World Star Hip Hop or Bossip or any of those. Do we even have anything like that exists today?
I mean, I don't know. I haven't studied it enough. But just from a recipe, it's going to be the entity that pinpoints a demographic and they speak to the demands of that demographic. They get that information out quickly. They're in front of everybody. They get in the right guest or the right products or whatever to put on display and get it out to the people. People are changing.
You think so?
And man, people are changing. There are things that 10 or 15 years ago would have been seen as weird and out of place that are now a part of the norm. And so with that, people are responding different. Their expectations are different, and so it's changing all the time. So it's whoever can be in tune to the people. Now, for people with quality content, as we see now, quality content is at the low end of the totem pole. So people with quality content have to take that same approach, I believe, in terms of making sure that your stuff is up to a certain standard, getting it out quick, and speaking to your tribe, speaking to your demographic. Now, you might not do the same numbers as a Breakfast Club, a Hot 97, or anything like that, but you'll still be feeding your core. It's very similar to like underground artists. You know, underground artists, for the most part, you'll find a lot of underground artists that talk their talk. They got good flow, they got good beats and all that type of stuff, but they don't have that commercial appeal because there's certain things that they don't do, certain things that they don't want to do contractually, and they might not just have the content that some of the major labels want to get behind. And that's a whole nother story, because we know that in a lot of those cases with those major labels, they have an agenda that they're trying to stick to and push. So you just got to be good with the underground and good with doing your numbers and knowing that you're speaking to like that core group of people that's going to rock with you and that are going to be willing to spread the goodness in the universe whenever they get a chance to. And you just have to find your comfort in that.
I did want to have this conversation. It's more of a follow-up or a part two. And so it really had me thinking about not only the role that Mr. M.K. Asante was playing and making certain that his voice gets heard and not get lost in the entertainment piece of it, but then also asking the question, understanding that there are 7 spheres of influence, but really trying to ask and answer the question: is this entertainment the new Is that the new wave?
It's gonna be interesting to watch, but with the advancements in technology and all that type of stuff, is making it very easy for media content to be spread to a lot of people very quickly. So I don't see entertainment, media, sports, and all that stuff. I don't see any of that taking a back seat for a long time. And if it does, it's gonna be just a mass change in the people. Something drastic happen that get people refocused on things like education and home and church and all those things. But I think this is the wave, and we just got to catch the wave and use it to the benefit of bringing the community and the culture up.
How can the people? I appreciate that, sir. I thought it was very well said. How can the people reach us?
All right, so reach us, freelunchpodcast.com for podcasts and blogs. Also, hit us up on Twitter, FreelunchPodC, and on Instagram. Like some of them pictures on there, Free Lunch Podcast.
So for those that are listening, go check out the book, Buck. I am going to purchase it. I'm interested in reading it. I was inspired, and I will actually like to have MK Asante on the show. If you know him, if you have a connection with him, connect us with him. But I'm definitely going to reach out to him in some form or fashion to see if we can get him on the show to talk about how he, essentially tell his story. So no disrespect, appreciate, love the brother. Likewise, continue to watch the Breakfast Club. That's what we do. We look at the interviews. I look at the interviews. Some of it I really, really like, and some of it I don't. So, but I like their format and what they're doing. So, shout out to the Breakfast Club as well.
What up, Yee? I had to do that. Now I can tag her on Instagram because I said her name on the show.
You gonna tag her?
What up, Yee? Yeah, I'm gonna tag her now.
Man, let's get out of here. This is your
All
boy, Tight. We are home. We are the Free Lunch Podcast, home of the New South Movement. And in the words of BG, we are out of here.
Up in the house now. Mama, I love you. Kids said, hold it down. I sure will. As I proceed to give you what you need, and for you hating bitches, raise up all these EQTs. Let me remind you, make it clear for the third time. We are not the same. I'm on my own cloud. Thinking you can get with this, use your other mind. Come celebrate a king party with a second line. It ain't so trivial or foreign like Bolivia. We bust shots for hip hop. Can you feel it, bruh? Chant down Babylon, walking in the Exodus, executing vernacular to penetrate the pessimist. Ain't too many that can step, it's real. Yeah, giving people something they can feel. Penthouse when the ball drop. Came too far, now we won't stop. See me shine, put some light on their mind. Illuminate the dark, give them sight if they blind. See me shine for the ones that they said will never make it. Finally got my shot and I'm gonna take it. See me shine, put some light on their mind. Illuminate the dark, give them sight if they blind. And see me shine for the